And that's one thing. Like, I know that they did some chipping. They brought Jennings across the formation to chip a couple of times. And Jennings is a great blocker. It's just, I felt like that Kansas City was just more buttoned up across the board and executed across the board. And it feels like the 49ers missed assignments, not executing.
Well, Spagnuolo, and I was reading this article from Eric Branch in the San Francisco Chronicle yesterday, and Purdy was talking about the defense that they had. Spags admitted that initially they had a zone-heavy game plan. Kansas City Chiefs defense. They weren't going to run a lot of zone defense. But Purdy was carving them up, 8 of 10, 105 yards in the first quarter. Looked great carving up their zone defense. So Spagnuolo went to his man defense. He went to the sticky man. And they blitzed Purdy 51% of the time. 51% of the time they blitzed Brock Purdy in this football game. And Brock said, man, we didn't see a lot of this coming. Not only that, Kansas City had a season-high 9 unblocked pressures. 9 unblocked pressures, all on blitzes, and a free rusher was the biggest reason, of course, why Purdy threw incomplete on 3rd and 4, threw incomplete on 3rd and 5, the 3rd and 4, or excuse me, 3rd and 5 in regulation, the 3rd and 4 in overtime. So they just blitzed them. They said, we're going to man-to-man coverage, and this is something to look at next year. Teams that ran man defense. We saw the Rams in 2021 run a lot of man. We saw the Cleveland Browns this year run a lot of man defense. When you run man against the Niners, and you can disrupt the timing routes by jamming the receivers at the line of scrimmage, which Kansas City did very well when it came to Debo and Ayuk, you're going to disrupt the rhythm of flow of this offense. And then obviously the Niners didn't have an adjustment. They didn't have any counters to their blitz package, to their man defense, and that's what did them in offensively. Spags was a step ahead of Kyle Shanahan.
It's ironic that you say that because the opposite was true for the defense. We're more of a zone defensive team, and on critical situations, they ran man and either blitzed or didn't blitz or had miscommunications on who was covering who. The 3rd and 7 to Rashee Rice, the 3rd and 7 later on to Kelsey on the big play where Gibson is in the robber position. Like, there's just, I don't know, man. There's so many woulda, coulda, shouldas. It's so frustrating.
They took this game away.
You know, and the thing that's frustrating is that seeing what ended up happening in the first half, like the first half, the Niners defense was rolling, and they didn't blitz once. And then I know you got to mix it up. Like, that's the other thing. Like, everyone, oh, you're blitzing too much. Well, you can't just sit back and run one thing all game against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Like, can we all agree there?
You got to mix it up.
Yeah, you got to mix it up a little. So I don't fault Steve Wilkes for mixing it up. Now, we could argue about this call at that time and blah, 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 blah. I also think there's a personnel issue here. Like, come on, man. You had Oren Burks out there and Gibson guarding Travis Kelce. You tell me, football fans, is that a matchup that's in the Niners' favor?
No, it's not in favor of any team in the league. Any team. He just caught 11 passes on 11 targets against Kyle Hamilton and the Baltimore Ravens. Kyle Hamilton's one of the best safeties in football. But here's Shanahan.
But to your point, is that on Wilkes? No. Like, you only have so many cards you could play.
Well, here's Shanahan. He was asked about forcing Wilkes to run his defense. Here's what Shanahan said.
Let's hear it.
That was the hardest part, and I knew that was a challenge. You know, it was tough. It was real tough losing D'Amico. It was tough losing Saul the year before, but you know, we had committed to not just the system, but the players that had been in the system, from our D-line, our linebackers. They had played in it for such a long time, so it was my goal to not have to change all of them and bringing in Steve, who was unbelievable, and how loyal he was, and him trying to do it, but it just ended up not being the right fit, and it's like, you know, it hurt for me to do this, but that's exactly why I had to.
Will he look inside or outside the organization for his next defensive coordinator? Here's what Shanahan said about that.
We'll do both. We got some good coaches in here, and definitely going to look outside also. So there's a number of things I got to do for the interview process, but you know, I had to get this. This wasn't an easy decision, so it's something that I had to really put a lot of time into. And have that conversation with Steve this morning, which now that's taken care of, and now I'll start working on the interview process and things like that, trying to find who's best for our group.
So Steve Wilkes was relieved Wednesday, correct? Wednesday morning. He said he had to put a lot of time into the decision.
And he met everyone on Tuesday.
Right.
And then
the next morning, he was gone.
Yeah.
He was gone.
That doesn't sit well with you? Or?
Nah, I don't care. I mean, he made his decision quick. I'd rather have swiftly than lingering, and then boom, let's fire him. I just want to see who the next one is.
What do you think they do?
Brandon Staley is getting a lot of legs.
I guess they have the same representation. That's the thing that I keep seeing is that Kyle Shanahan and Brandon Staley are represented by the same person or group or whatever, and that's what the common linkage is. Brandon Staley's defenses weren't good with the Chargers. Wasn't that one of the issues? They couldn't get stops.
Yeah,
I don't like pretend to know his X's and O's inside and out. I know he was with the Rams for a very short time, and then he got the Charger job. Like, is that for me? It would not be very inspiring. What about you?
Nah, it wouldn't inspire me. I mean, that's crazy because everybody was inspired about Steve Wilks. People were pumped up about Steve Wilks. They were jacked about Steve Wilks being the DC here. Now, we didn't know all the nuance to everything. Didn't bring his assistants. Had to run Shanahan's defense. Talked to Eric Crocker. He goes, hey, man, Shanahan's really the defensive coordinator, not Wilks. And Wilks told us midway through the year, this isn't his scheme. Now, I don't care that Wilks is gone. I care less about that. I just.
But where do they go from here?
I'm not married to Steve Wilks at all, but I don't know where they go. I don't know where they go, but here's what he said.
Okay.
If he consider hiring a DC and changing the scheme.
I'm committed to trying, with the situation we're in, trying to find what we believe will give the Niners the best chance in 2024. And when you have a group of guys who have played at a high level doing certain things a specific way for a while, I do feel that's the best thing to do for them. But if I find something that I believe in and I could be sold on that could be a better avenue, I would never hesitate to do that. So I'm not closed-minded in any way. I'll look in every possibility. But, you know, when you have some good players who have played at a high level and done it a certain way, I'm not just trying to change that. You know, I lean towards trying to keep them doing similar stuff that they've been very good at that's got us very far. But I have to make sure that I find the right person who's capable of leading our group in that way, that the standard of how we have done it and that the belief that we'll continue to get better at it, I believe in with whoever I choose to do this for us.
I would love Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel. That's a wish list that I don't think is going to happen. When they go in-house, I have no idea. But at the end of the day, we keep focusing on defense. Super Bowl was lost by the offense.
That I agree with. That third quarter just doesn't sit well with me. And then the overtime, it's just, there's no doubt. But he's not, like, here's the thing. I'm not naive enough to say, I'm going to fire myself or I'm going to criticize myself. Like, most people are going to try to, and it's not as a scapegoat or anything. Like, it wasn't working all year on defense, but simultaneously, the reason they lost this game had very little to do with the defense, I mean, in my estimation.
The name of the game is to not allow a team to score. The Niners were third in the league in points given up per game at 17.5. Was the defense really that bad?
Well,
in today's NFL, where it's so easy to get yards and so easy to score, and where the rules are dictated towards the offense, where you can't touch wide receivers down the field, you can't even breathe on wide receivers, you can't hit the quarterbacks. Give us 17.5 points per game.
Factually correct. But when I heard Fred Warner and Nick Bosa talk all year, the two high-paid players on that side of the ball clearly didn't like whatever they were doing. I know Bosa referenced a couple times, we're a rush 4 team, you know, and I know Fred at times is like, yeah, we're a zone team, and like they weren't in lockstep. Right. I think that is it's a thin line though. Like
it's funny because he says they're a zone team. What changed the Green Bay game? Getting out of zone.
Yeah.
What changed the Detroit game? Getting out of zone defense. You got to play man.
So you think that they're listening to the players too much?
I think so. Maybe you're just a little too close to the players, Kyle Shanahan. I'm going to listen to Fred. I'm going to listen to Bosa. But Bosa, your job is to play quarterback. You're not dropping back in coverage. I'm not doing that. You're going to get the quarterback.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. So, and honestly, I don't want to hear from Bosa right now about the scheme or whatnot. You're talking about conditioning in the Super Bowl. You had 2 weeks off. It's a joke. But Warner's talking about zone defense. You ran zone against Cincinnati, and Joe Burrow didn't have an incompletion in the first half.
One of the greatest games I've ever seen.
So you want to be a zone team. You run zone. You're going to get picked apart by the great quarterbacks.
I'm making generalizations.
No, I hear you.
Yeah,
I don't even care for Steve Wilks to be the DC. I really don't.
But it did feel like, and I know like we're examining Shanahan a lot. It did feel like to me the players rejected Steve Wilks.
Right.
Like the guy didn't have a chance.
No doubt. But and not only that,
that's a little unfair. For the
I see a text here 510 Comcast Business Insight. Defense lost the Baltimore game. This is where we had the conversation yesterday. Where we had the conversation yesterday about Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy threw 4 interceptions in that football game. 4. And it should have been 7. All right? So let's I don't think Steve Wilks is the best defensive coordinator in the league. It obviously wasn't his scheme. It wasn't a good fit. I have no problem with him moving on. No problem with Shanahan moving on from Steve Wilks. But you got to nail the next hire.
Well,
you got to nail the next hire because this is on you, Kyle. I mean, you hired Steve Wilks.
I'm hearing internal names. I don't even know. None of us know these people. We don't
Position
know.
Coaches.
Yeah, there's like a DB coach, and then there's a linebacker coach, and who knows? I think it's a tough job. I think it's a really tough job. Number one, let's just start here. Your defense was so good the last couple of years. The only place it could have went is down, right? Yeah. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
On some level, you're in kind of like a no-win situation. The second thing is like I think everyone would recognize DeMeco Ryans might just be special, like as a leader.
And even he struggled initially.
Absolutely, but I'm just saying,
wasn't ready
replacing him, like the players loved him. He's clearly a special human being that the guys gravitated to.
Well, not only that. Fred Warner got drafted here. DeMeco was here. That was his linebacker coach. It's the only coach he knew. Robert Saleh is the only coaches he knew. Bosa gets drafted here. DeMeco, Chris Kocurek, Robert Saleh, then later on DeMeco Ryans. Those were the only guys they knew. Steve Wilks was an outsider. He was an outsider that you tried to bring in to run your system, and it didn't work. Kyle Shanahan admitted, I was a little ambitious there. Wasn't fair to Wilks, and it was a mutual party. I got no problem with that. I'm not going to blame Wilks and the defense for what went awry this season. They advanced to the Super Bowl, lost to Kansas City in overtime, and you held Patrick Mahomes to 3 points on their first 9 possessions in the football game. The offense wasn't doing their job. You needed separation in the first half, and you didn't get that. When you ended the first quarter and the score was 0-0, that's not a good deal. You know what I'm saying? When you dominate a quarter of football and you continue to allow Patrick Mahomes to remain in this football game, what else do you want this defense to do?
So let me ask you then, like, on the surface, it looks like a great job. Is it a great job?
Yeah, it's a fine job. Absolutely, it's a good job. Got one of the best teams in football. It's a great job. But
you have to run it their way.
But if you have to run it their way, then maybe it's not that great. But some people may not be able to say no to a job.
No,
Wilks was in a position where he had to take that job.
Good point.
Now, all the coordinator spots are filled up, and he can't get a job. He's probably going to have to coach the DBs again. You know what I'm saying? Somewhere. So I don't know how good of a